Man, I don't know if I know how to
Better in a
talk.
music studio, right?
Oh yeah, I don't know if I know how to talk on camera anymore. I just put the selfie up there and I start rapping, and it's a lot easier. Welcome to Big Facts. This is our
What's going on, bro?
introduction.
Yeah, it's our
You know,
triumphant return.
yeah, this is so it's a return to the camera and the desktop, return to sports, return to you and I talking about sports and disagreeing on everything, return from South America, and return to a complete U.S. economic collapse. It's
We're
great.
not collapsing yet. That's not fair. Gas is just expensive. Stop driving fucking expensive cars and you'll be okay.
Well, I have to. It's part of my business.
That's
Today,
correct. Building the metaverse, bro. That's it. You just got to build all these digital
there's
things
someone
that
making
nobody can
$18
touch.
an hour at Subway in the metaverse right now. Did you know that? $18 an
Exactly.
hour at Subway.
That's
They're,
another
make,
episode, bro.
they're
That's
making
another episode.
meta sandwiches. so
What the fuck happened to
first
the world?
we got a lot to talk about. We're gonna skip over a lot that's happened in the last couple months, but lucky for us, James Harden trade did happen a couple weeks ago, and we've had the pleasure of watching a Sixers team win 5 out of 6 games. So we're going to talk to that. We have the NFL draft coming up. Looking back on that, Justin, by the way, the NFL draft over the last 2 years, we have hit on just about everything except for liking Rager coming into the draft 2 years ago. Offensive linemen, wide receivers, like second round, third round wide receivers, the Van Jeffersons, the T Higgins, the first round guards, the maybe a little bit back and forth on quarterbacks, missed on a couple last year, but overall, I mean, a good run. So we'll dedicate a whole nother couple
Is this you
episodes to
willing
that.
to admit that I was right that Trevor Lawrence and Mitchell Trubisky Jr. suck?
More the Jets guy. Then I want to give Lawrence a year without Urban Meyer and see what's going on. But
Because
that's
Dougie P is gonna bring out everything in him, right?
listen, man. He brought out a lot of people. So we'll get in a couple draft episodes. You have a couple Eagles points to bring up. Let's talk about this whole James Harden situation stemming from last year. Us trying to get him a couple years back, and people just adamant that Ben Simmons was going to reach that potential, not wanting Harden to come in. I know you were more on the train of, hey, I would like Harden to come here, but he's never won anything, and I'm not giving up Tyrese Maxey. More people were on the train of, I think Ben Simmons is going to be better. James Harden's 33 years old and hasn't won anything. I was on the trade of go get him, whatever it takes, because we have a 3-year window, and I think this opens up the whole floor, and I love the fit with Joel Embiid. We got the best of both worlds, and Daryl Morey knew better than both of us because he waited it out. He got into a saga with Ben Simmons, and then he ended up getting the guy that we wanted without giving up Thibault or Tyrese Maxey. And I think at this point we can take a look at Thibault in this mix of everything and say he's probably expendable. But we are able to keep Tyrese Maxey. We have James Harden. We have 3 guys on the team that we would consider a big 3 now, averaging almost 90 points a game. So take me through this entire process, what you're seeing over these last 5 games, and especially being able to see this team last night without James Harden on the floor, and like what a difference. I know they were on a back-to-back. I know they were playing the Miami Heat, but just a huge difference, and what a big difference it makes for both Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
For sure. So starting first, I can't talk about this without leading the way that I have every phone call we've had together since the trade happened, and that's fuck Ben Simmons. I don't ever wish injury or anything bad on any athlete ever. And I'm not going to wish injury on Ben Simmons because first of all, it probably won't be true. It'll be a lie that he's hurt anyway. But second of all, I just hope that he does play and has to get booed off every court he ever fucking plays for again in the rest of his career because fuck that guy. So that's first.
Yeah, fuck
Second,
that guy. Yeah.
You fuck that guy. I was adamant when we talked about this before that I would not give up Tyrese Maxey, and I know that part of your comfort in giving Tyrese Maxey is you're getting an NBA 75 member, a lock Hall of Famer in James Harden. You give up what you gotta.
Sure.
But I don't think any of us assumed that a week after James Harden started playing, a week after the trade that acquired him, that we would use the term big 3 and not have Tobias Harris's name in that big 3. That's what everybody would have assumed. Now, I have 2 points.
It's a great point.
I have 2 points about the James Harden acquisition that are imperative, that lead right into the rotation, and how I really don't think Doc Rivers might be the coach that's going to take us to the NBA Finals, because he pisses me off, which we'll get to. So Tyrese Maxey, in the 4 games that he played with James Harden, Tyrese Maxey averages 26.7 points a game. And I think I didn't look up his percentages because I hear them on the radio every fucking day.
70% from 3. I'm not sure what the overall is, but
fucking disgusting. It's unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
Now, we talked about this when they drafted Ty Maxey at 21 or 22, wherever he was. We were elated because you got a guard from Kentucky in the fucking 20s, and not like the third string guard of Kentucky that year. Their premier guard you got in the 20s. Yeah. So Tyrese Maxey, going back to being a 16-year-old kid in prep school, was a combo guard. Now, I was impressed the first half of the season while Ben Simmons was crying like a bitch in his fucking room with whichever famous girlfriend he had at that time. I thought he facilitated well enough. Not enough to be a real contender, a top 5 team in the East, but he did well for what you were asking him to do. Yeah. Bringing James Harden in here, who is a legitimate facilitator. Like everybody talks about James Harden's scoring ability, which is unbelievable. I mean, James Harden's a microwave. You could be down 6 points and up 8 with James Harden on the floor in 90 seconds. His scoring ability is unbelievable, but his facilitation is, I don't think I appreciated it enough until I saw what he did here. George Niang had 19 the other night off the bench. The positions that he puts players in is consistently the right one. I haven't seen him make more than a handful of what I'd call bad passes since he's put on a Sixers uniform that put somebody in a position to get the ball and not know what to do with it, which leads me directly into the next point. Tyrese Maxey is the future of this team. That's the first point. Tobias Harris has got to go, bro. I leave the contract aside because it is maybe next to John Wall, the worst contract in the NBA, and Houston's going to buy John Wall out in the summer anyway. Beyond the contract, this is the 4 games that Toby played, and I believe I did look at his percentages. I don't think he shot over 35% from the floor in any of these 4 games. That's counting threes, which he's at like 17% in these 4 games or something. He's got 15, 14, 12, and 6. He's averaging under 12 points a game. Yeah. And last night on the back leg of 1,000-mile difference back-to-back where Joe's tired, Tyrese Maxey played 40 minutes, you needed Tobias Harris to at least give you 20, 22. And if it was inefficient, it doesn't matter. You got 22. Inefficiently, he put up 16 points in like 36 or 37 minutes. And he is just not the guy moving forward, which leads into what you just mentioned a minute ago with Matisse Thybulle. I believe Tobias Harris and Matisse Thybulle, and maybe a Jaden Springer or an Isaiah Joe, one of these bench guys that doesn't get time on a championship team, can pull you out a disgruntled 4 or a team that's got to rip it down because they're not close enough. You need to get a real stretch 4 on this team as soon as possible. Obviously, it's not going to be this year. Whatever we can accomplish is going to be with Toby this year.
Yeah, but, that's unfortunate because I think if anything is going to hold us back, it's the lack of depth at those big positions. And I'm curious to see. Like I know I've watched DeAndre Jordan, kind of get shuffled around, and if I can get a B- version of Andre Drummond out of DeAndre Jordan, it's huge. But it's just such a big issue that when you have to put a sub of 4 in or not use Toby there, that Paul Millsap's on the floor because I haven't watched Paul Millsap in a couple years, and I'm watching him now with this team, and I don't know what's going to happen come playoff time, and I know he's a veteran, but he shouldn't be on the floor. Unfortunately, you have to have him on the floor because you don't have any bigs to take that place.
Sure, and this is the reason why DeAndre Jordan has a 10-day contract and he wasn't signed for the rest of the season. Doc said at pregame yesterday he has no idea what they're going to get out of DeAndre Jordan. He's a great locker room guy. He's a vet. He can teach guys some things, but at this stage where you are after the Harden acquisition, if you're not providing anything other than leadership, be a fucking coach, bro. Like, you don't need to take up a roster spot because I got to tell you, I mentioned this to you the other day and you disagree with me on this. I believe that some combination, one or the other, maybe both of them come the near future. I think Bassey and Reed have a place on this team. I think Paul Reed has shown you enough. The problem with Paul Reed is strength. He's an undersized center, or he's an OFI 4. He doesn't really have a natural position because of his build. And Bassey is just a small center. Bassey doesn't have the shot that Paul Reed does. I think that they have a guy on the roster that could help. But the problem is, bro, is you, again, as we just mentioned, one of your big threes, a 21-year-old kid in his second year of being relevant. You know,
so,
you can't add that guy into the mix come playoff time and hope Paul Reed doesn't fuck you out of a second.
Yeah, he's probably not gonna see minutes, and it's really hard to judge his team too, because I know Doc's trying to figure out these rotations right now. But there was a point last night. I mean, you're trying to pull out this win in Miami, and some of the combinations of fives just don't make any sense. So it's like leaving Maxey out there with an ice cold Tobias Harris and having them as your two options, and then having some of your worst 3-point shooters on the floor. I think at that point, Isaiah Joe and Danny Green were on the floor together, maybe with Paul Millsap, and that was the 5-man rotation. And you're basically just able to clamp down on Maxey because Harris has been so cold. You have to be able to put a guy like Niang out there at that point, someone that can get hot from three, like anyone but Danny Green, just because this season really just hasn't been his season. There's some other combination of players that would have worked. And I think Miami went on like an 8-2 or a 10-2 run and started to increase that gap. And then they subbed Joel Embiid in like a minute and a half too late. He played the whole third quarter, but you have a day off tomorrow, like give him the extra minute. He wasn't playing well. He wasn't getting enough touches. They were fronting him and he wasn't getting the ball. They have to be able to counter something with that. And he did get out coached. You said it to me last night. Spo just out coached him. He was denying Joel Embiid the ball. You have to find ways to get Joel.
They were triple teaming Joe at the 3-point line. The first time you see that as a head coach in the NBA, stop running your offense that way. Joe cannot operate if he's double teamed at the 3-point line. Like, he has definitely improved his step through and his pass out of a double team, but you don't put him 27 feet away from the fucking bucket and then ask him to find a way to facilitate with 3 defenders in his face.
Yeah,
like and I said to you, I know Spo is probably at the end of the day going to be a top 5 coach all time, maybe top 7. Spo's a great coach.
He's a great coach.
I don't need Doc Rivers to be as good as that guy. But motherfucker, when you make the 15 best coaches in history, like you did, like that fucking bullshit list I had to argue with everybody about a couple of weeks ago, you have to be able to adjust better than that. And I gotta tell you, man, these slow starts, right? I heard it all day on the radio yesterday. These slow starts have to stop. They have to find a way to start faster. I don't disagree with that. They do need to find a way to start faster. But the problem is Doc Rivers, his entire career, go back to when he won in 2008 with the Celtics. He does not make adjustments until halftime. He just doesn't do it. He's not good at seeing live time adjustments. And what I've watched in the last 5 games, 4 with Harden on the court and 1 without, when James Harden is on the floor playing, I mean, I watched it in the Cavs game. James Harden went up to Doc and said, "I'm fucking going in, and we're gonna stop this run.
Yeah,
we got to figure this out."
So another issue that I think we're gonna have is I really don't believe. I know Morey hired D'Antoni, I believe, in Houston. He was the guy that actually hired him. D'Antoni has that reputation for locking up the 1 seed, winning 65 games year after year, and then getting knocked out in the second or third round of the playoffs. Sometimes in the first round, his teams don't typically play defense. Doc's a little bit different of a coach. You see the team play defense.
He's the opposite guy of D'Antoni.
The offense sometimes can't get going, but he allowed D'Antoni to go years and years and years getting knocked out of the playoffs. And because they kept locking up that 1 seed. So we're a couple games behind Miami at this point. I think last night dropped us to 3. But there's a good chance that with the amount of games we have left, that with Harden now coming into this team, that we can lock that 1 seed in and be able to do that for the next couple years. So it's hard for me to sit and look like watching a coach lock up the 1 seed, maybe get knocked out in the semifinals or the Eastern Conference Finals, and then management coming up and hiring someone new. The thing I can possibly see is a LeBron type of situation where Ty Lue took over for the Cavs coach, and maybe you have Sam Cassell taking over for Doc Rivers. But to be honest with you, I think you need to just bring in a whole new coach. And I don't see Morey doing that at any point. I just don't.
Oh, I absolutely. I think there's one successful end to this team, and it doesn't necessarily mean win the finals. If you lose a 7-game series against the Bucks or the Heat in the Eastern Conference Final, and you're in every single game, and a Toronto Raptors Kawhi Leonard fucking quadruple bounce is what eliminates you, I think Doc Rivers gets another chance. If you get run off the court in any series except for the finals, everybody forgets this, bro. Doc is not Daryl Morey's coach. Doc is Elton's hire. Doc came a couple of weeks before Morey came. And while we look at the hierarchy of how a fucking basketball team works, bro, Elton Brand is still the general manager. Daryl Morey is the vice president of basketball operations. That's the guy that matters. That is the guy who gets to choose what happens. And while I love all the things that Elton has done, I think Elton was huge past the Colangelos. I think a lot of the moves that he's made have been good. I think the draft picks that he's made have been good. Elton's a great guy to have in the front office. But if Elton's going to die on the hill of Doc, see you, motherfucker. I'm not going to be able to go in to a 34-year-old season of James Harden, one more year on the knees and back of Joel Embiid, still having Tobias Harris's fucking terrible contract.
Well, that's that. I trust Morey to move that contract next year.
Well, look at what he did with Al Horford.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna move that contract.
Danny Green is kind of an itch to the nutsack to all of us now. But when that trade went down, bro, you turned Al Horford's terrible contract into Danny Green and a first-round pick.
And he ended up getting Seth Curry for pretty much not. I mean,
let's talk about this real quick. We got to go back to the beginning of this conversation about this trade.
Yeah, and after whatever you're about to say, I want to talk about specifically last night's game and a conversation I had with a Heat fan.
Sure.
So go ahead.
So real quickly, just to go back to the beginning of this conversation, I need to know where these people get whatever it is that they're on that believe that the Brooklyn Nets won this trade. I need to know where it is. I need to know how to access it. You don't have to give it to me. I'll pay for it. I'll find it.
They still say it?
So yeah. So let's look at this is what I wanted to bring this up for. So we're going to look at what is reasonable, like what we're watching happen, the reality. We're going to look at real quick the best case and the worst case, right? So reality right now, Seth Curry's a great three-point shooter. He was what he was before he was traded. He's just going to be that guy forever. Andre Drummond can he start and play 30 minutes? Yeah. On a team where you've got Kevin Durant on the floor? Sure, because you don't need any offense out of that position. And the motherfucker grabs 20 rebounds in 18 minutes most nights. Yeah. But he's a backup center in this league. He's not a top 15 center. It's just not who he is. You gave up an unprotected 22 or 23 pick. Brooklyn picks at the end of the season. Who cares? It's going to be in the late 20s. And then your pick that you pushed out 5 years for 2 seasons is protected 1 through 8. And if the protections hold, it turns into 2 second-round draft picks in cash. Somebody needs to explain to me how you believe, with everything I just laid out, that Ben Simmons, who in reality or realness is not playing right now because of back injury, which just means he's not going to fucking embarrass himself right now. In the best case scenario, you see the Ben Simmons that we saw a year and a half ago in Philadelphia. Really good defender, good facilitator, but cannot be – it can't be overlooked.
And it's a liability come playoff time, yeah.
Right. You're playing 4-on-5. Now, again, with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the floor, maybe you don't need to worry about that. Maybe his facilitation will work. I don't see how that works because the ball's got to be in Ben's hands to be effective, and so does it Kevin Durant and Kyrie. But regardless, that's your best case. Your worst case scenario is what I feel like we're seeing play out right now. I believe that, first of all, Ben Simmons is not going to play 1 game for the Brooklyn Nets this season. He will not put on a jersey and play this year.
Agreed.
With that coming, you got to think as the owner of the Nets and the GM of the Nets, bro. If you have Kevin Durant, who wanted to bring together Kyrie and Harden to build the super team of the East, and now that LeBron's out west, we own the East and we're going to be the guy every year. Kyrie's not going to get vaccinated and still can't play with the vaccine mandates. KD can't stay healthy to save his life, and if he's got to be out there 40 fucking minutes a game, he's just going to continue to get hurt. If Ben Simmons doesn't touch the court this year, if I'm Kevin Durant, I'm saying to management, you either find a fucking way to make this guy be the all NBA defender and guy he's supposed to be, or get me the fuck out of here and send me somewhere where I can fucking win. Yeah. And that is what they're staring down right now, bro. And that, I think, the worst case is much more likely than the best case.
Yeah,
I don't think the best case can happen.
At some point, KD's got to get a feeling like Harden has and want to go somewhere where everybody just wants to win. Because I obviously, the most important thing to Kyrie Irving, and he said it multiple times, is not winning basketball games. It's not really even playing in the NBA. There's actually 6 or 7 things on the list before being an NBA player.
Flat Earth being
So if I'm Kevin Durant and my goal was to win a champion, the whole point of Kevin Durant teaming up with all those guys in Brooklyn before even James Harden got there was to try to prove that he can be the alpha on a championship team and that he can win without Steph Curry.
It's got to hurt him in his soul to understand that Steph was the guy.
Yeah, and he's getting the opportunity now, and he's finding like, hey, if I only have Kyrie halftime, I really can't be the alpha. Like he's finding out, like his injuries don't help. But just KD himself is not going to win a championship against any of these teams in the East, any of these teams in the West. The teams overall are much better. And by the way, we talk about this all the time. Basketball is a team sport, right? So he's got to be pretty pissed off. And Kyrie is, even if they lift this mandate in New York and Kyrie gets to play all these games in the playoffs, you just lost James Harden. Ben Simmons probably is going to touch the ball. If I hope Ben Simmons gets an opportunity to play a playoff game with the Brooklyn Nets, having only maybe played 3 regular season games to try to get connected with the team, and he goes out there and tries to play. Like I want to see Ben Simmons in the playoffs this year. I would love to see.
Think about that, bro. Think about that starting 5, right? Like I'm just trying to imagine in my mind, your starting 5 would have to be Ben, KD, Kyrie, Seth Curry, I guess, because Joe Harris is out for the rest of the year now. Seth Curry would have to be in that mix somewhere or somehow.
Yeah.
And Andre Drummond.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Two guys on that starting 5 that are complete offensive liabilities. Yeah. You'll get nothing on the offensive side of the ball in the half court. And you're trying to tell me you're not going to get blown out. But, bro, imagine Charlotte. Who the fuck thought we'd be talking about Charlotte being a contender?
Well, they're going to have to – they might not make the playoffs. So let's talk about that first.
That's true, bro. Can you imagine James Harden comes a year and a half ago and we're the cream of the crop, and a year and a half later the Brooklyn Nets don't even make – not the playoffs, Aaron. Remember, we're in this new COVID world where there's a fucking play-in tournament, and you might miss that.
So right now they're 8th, right? So they would have to play – there's a combination of that plan would be the Raptors, the Hornets, and the Hawks. I'm not too confident.
I picked the Hawks every time.
And what I'm saying is, and the Hawks are injured right now. One of the reasons they're standing where they are is because they have like 3 or 4 injured guys, a couple in their starting lineup. So you have to go against the Hawks or the Hornets. I mean, I'm not interested in playing Trae Young in a play-in tournament.
No way.
Like we played them last year. They beat us. One of the reasons they beat us is Ben Simmons didn't shoot the ball, and Trae Young was cooking everybody that tried to guard him. Nobody could guard Trae Young.
Now, I will say this. I did want to mention that before you talk about your heat point real quick. Trae Young's having a rough year, bro. Trae Young is struggling with this rule change.
It's Harden's figured it out, and Trae's still trying to.
So tell me about this heat conversation that you had.
All right, this is rough. This is real rough. I gotta woosah. So
shake it off so you don't punch your computer.
The first thing that happened last night, this was the first part of the conversation. We'll get into the team part later. And I want you to answer this without bias, because I answered it without bias, but I gave a counterpoint. So It's not, don't just take this point for what I'm about to make it. I had a Heat fan hit me up last night, and he said, he wrote Hero, Greater, Maxi. Okay. Just hold on 1 second. So I said to him, listen, this is my true belief. I actually truly feel this way because I don't have a recency bias, and I'm not going to take what I've seen with Tyrese Maxey just for the last 5 games and then put him up against the guy that A, has another year on him, B, is coming off the bench, and C, just like overall, like right this second, if I had to play one game, I think I would take Tyler Herro right now over Tyrese Maxey. And it's really just because I'm trying to void my recency bias of the last 5 games and see if Maxey can continue to do something like this. He's not going to shoot 70% for 3, but if he can average 20 to 24 points and keep on this type of streak and shoot well, then it's switched. But any other time but this year, if you say pick a guy for next year, 2 years, 5 years, it's not even close. It's not even close. So I said to him, listen, right now, right this second, if I had to pick a game, like we're playing a game today, I'd probably pick Tyler Hero over Tyrese Maxey. I then went and looked at the numbers. Okay. So a couple things. First of all, Tyler Hero comes off the bench for the Heat. He doesn't even start for whatever reason. Duncan Robinson starts over him, but it's almost the same concept that we talked about with the Harden trade, where I said to you, I wonder if they're just going to have Tyrese Maxey come off the bench,
and
just
be the
so
punch off the bench, right?
Just so they have that guy with that spark. Not that he shouldn't be starting, but it'd be nice to have him on the bench unit. And we're actually kind of like seeing that right now. Sometimes it's hard for them to generate offense on that second unit when it's just Harden and everybody else. So maybe they do something with the lineup, but if it's not broke, don't fix it. I like what's going on. So Tyrese Maxey, I don't know if you knew this. Tyler Hero is averaging 2 more points a game. Tyrese Maxey is shooting 48% from the floor to Tyler Hero's 43% from the floor, and he's averaging 18 points, 2 points less on 4 less shots.
Yeah, come on.
I'm looking at the whole picture now, and I'm looking at the stats, and I'm like, wait a minute. I still probably would take Hero for this year. The Heat roster is so deep and there's so many guys that can score, whereas we're really relying on a big three to do the majority of our scoring. But that's like kind of eye-opening that I'm averaging 2 less points
on 4 less shots.
4 less shots and shooting 5 percentage points better. That's like an unbelievable year. And Tyrese Maxey's in his second year, whereas Tyler Hero's in his third. So am I like he's trying to make this argument with me, and I'm like, there's no way that at any point next year and beyond, this is even a conversation.
But let me throw some different context into this. So this is where my brain went, right? If first of all, I believe Tyler Hero as a sixth man can't be compared to a starting point guard, no matter who it is in a 2 guard in the league. You can't compare a bench player to a starter.
Okay, sure.
If I were asked, I need a guy to play in one game right now today, to be the dude that stands at the arc and takes an open catch and shoot shot. And I was given the name Tyrese Maxey and Tyler Hero. My initial instinct, not due to recency bias. If I leave recency bias out the door, the last week out the door.
A week, yeah, right.
My first thought does go to Tyler Hero.
Right.
But I also do know, because I've been an avid Maxey fan since he got here. So I know all of the in-depth stats. I am a Pro Football Focus level statistician on Tyrese Maxey because I have been big on this kid since the day he got drafted. What I look at is if I'm looking to build a starting 5, right? If that's my context is you're building a team, you have your center, you have your forwards, you have one guy in your backcourt, you need another guard. Tyler Hero, Tyrese Maxey. It's obviously going to depend on the guy that I have, like a James Harden facilitator. I'm going to want to score.
Right.
But if I'm given no context other than you got to pick between these 2 guys to complete your starting 5, I look at a guy like Tyler Hero, who's a great spot-up shooter. I think Tyler Hero is a great player. We've talked about Tyler Hero dozens of times. He's a great player.
Yeah.
Tyrese Maxey gives you far more.
He gives you more
5-on-5 game of basketball than Tyler Hero can give you. If
I
Tyler
agree.
Hero doesn't have a screen setter, Tyler Hero can only make open jump shots. He doesn't have a drive. He doesn't have speed.
That's not true. I mean, so from year 1 to year 2, for year 1, Tyler Hero was only catch and shoot. He got hot. He was
Duncan
running
Robinson
around.
now. That's what Duncan Robinson is right now.
Year 2, he got a little bit better and was able to drive a little bit. This year, he has a whole isolation package, but it's still not as good as Maxey's because he is faster. He's better at getting to the rim, and he's still a better dribbler and ball handler than
Maxey
Tyler
is the key. Is Maxey's a better finisher? That is what when we talk about James Harden's drivability, it's not his handle's disgusting, obviously.
Yeah.
But James Harden's not a ball of strength at 6'4" going up against 7-foot centers. It's his finishing ability, and that's what Tyrese Maxey has. Ty can finish around pretty much any defensive setup that he runs into. I don't see that out of Tyler Hero, bro. So again, if I'm leaving recency bias, I'm going to agree with you. If I was given zero context other than pick one of these guys, I feel like Tyler Hero being a year further in his career, regardless of these last 5 games, is a more consistent player because I've seen it longer. But by the end of the season, I don't think that Tyrese Maxey doesn't take that over.
I agree with you, and that's why I said anything beyond maybe today, next week, or a couple weeks from now, I'm going with Maxey, and I don't think it's particularly close, and I think even right now, like it's 1A, 1B, like today. So let's get that out of the way. I'm glad we agree. We're not, that actually can show us for a second that we're not completely biased Sixers fans, right?
No,
so let's move on. Let's move on to the second point. We start talking about playoffs. And at some point, these two teams are going to meet. It's probably going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm just guessing at this point they're going to finish 1 and 2, hoping they meet in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Even if they finish 1 and 3, it's still likely that that's where you meet.
So two completely different teams, right? You have one team that is just deep, like the first and second team are just full of guys that can, for the most part, play on both ends of
I
the
said
floor.
to you yesterday, it's Jimmy Butler and like 7 B- players in the
NBA. It's Jimmy and Bam who are borderline all-stars every year, and then a bunch of guys who have like great potential and can play defense and can shoot
like
the ball.
6 guys that could be the sixth man on every championship contender. Yeah,
sure. And then you have the other team, which has the best 2 players on the floor by far, and the best 2 out of one of them is a top 5 player, probably a top 3, maybe win the MVP this year, depending on how the next couple weeks go, and one who's won the MVP, and I think everybody would still consider a top 10 player. And we overlooked this. You mentioned it earlier about his ability to pass. He's second in the league in assists. He's averaging like 11 assists.
Is unbelievable, bro. Everybody has missed that.
Right. So you have the best 2 players in the series. When we're talking about playoffs, I'm taking the best 2 players in the series over the deep roster every single time. We saw it 2 years ago in the bubble with LeBron James and Anthony Davis playing that Heat team. That's just like the point right there. And then last year, I mean, for the most part, I think, we all thought Chris Paul would be an MVP candidate, but it kind of worked out in the same way that I think it would work out this year. His comparison to me was, well, what happened when LeBron James and Dwayne Wade teamed up and they were the 2 best guys on the floor and they won 2 out of 4? And it's like, well, are we forgetting that like Tim Duncan? Like, Dude, they didn't have
many people that don't want to give credit. Dirk Nowitzki that year was a top 3 player. He just was.
But I'm simply talking about we could talk about that 1 year. I mean, he was the best player on the floor at all times. He was better than LeBron was in the finals every single game. But when we're talking about the Spurs, because they played them a couple times, it's like, no, they really didn't have the 2 best players on the floor. Wade wasn't better than Tim Duncan, and the styles that Wade and LeBron played with, they clashed. We're not talking about a pairing of Harden and Joel Embiid where the styles perfectly complement each other.
What a great point. I literally just had a conversation with a fucking moronic Celtics fan yesterday. Not the one that we know together, one I know myself. An idiot Celtics fan who was trying to convince me that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown don't play the same game. And I keep trying to explain to this kid that the problem with what they're building in Boston is that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are too similar that they clash. You can't have 2 guys. It would be like if you had Damian Lillard and James Harden being the backcourt of your team. Now you have Joel Embiid, sure,
or more like Dame and Kyrie.
Sure,
because Harden's a great facilitator. Yeah,
right. Ball dominant guys. I'm talking about what we all thought James Harden was before he put his
sure.
Because that's all I fucking heard about was Tyrese Maxey's not going to develop because he's never going to have the ball. And Joe's going to score 17 a night instead of 30 because he's never going to have the ball.
Yeah, no.
But it's the same concept, bro. You have 2 guys that clash. If your game is too similar at your 2 best positions, that's exactly what happened with LeBron and Wade.
And one of the things that people fail to mention too, like when you talk about Tatum and Jaylen Brown, like obviously it's not going to work because it almost didn't work in Miami, and those were 2 out of the 5 best players in the league. Tatum and Brown are not even two out of the
20.
First 15.
Yeah. So, top 20, maybe Jaylen Brown, and I think you can make an argument that Tatum's in the top 15.
Yeah, and not to mention that Heat team, both of those guys were all NBA defensive players. That whole team as a whole was an all NBA defensive team. They were built around defense.
Look at who their main guy is now. It's Jimmy. That's what Spo does, bro.
Yeah, and that's what the Heat are going to do this year. So I'm more confident, and you can't convince me otherwise. I'm taking the two MVPs, the two best players in the series over the D team every single time, because I don't know.
Watch that game last night. If you watch that game last night and you tell me anything other than I feel confident in a 7-game series because we were in that game up until 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
With no James Harden.
Plus, you're going
to
be
the second night of a back-to-back.
In the finals, you have the same amount of fatigue.
Right, there's no concern. The only team I need to see them play whole now to be confident about the East is the Bucks. I need to see them play
because they have a big three. Because they have a big three.
Well, we'll argue about the Bucks next time. There's no big three with the Bucks, bro. Drew Holiday at best is the 8th or 9th best guard in the league.
However,
Chris Middleton is not that good.
Okay. However, Drew Holiday is very valuable, and he is probably one of the best point guard on ball defenders in the NBA.
Bro, okay, cool, but what happened I can't. We
don't have time to go into the Bucks.
We got to start. I'm going to bring up a point where we're going to disagree now because we've agreed too much during this show so far.
Okay.
I need everybody. We're making a change in sports in case anybody doesn't understand.
We're going to football.
I need everyone to shut the fuck up about quarterback. Shut up. It doesn't matter if Deshaun Watson gets cleared of every legal case and you get him for 3 7th-round draft picks. I don't give a fuck what you give up for who you get. This team, as it stands, is so far away from competing for anything real. The quarterback does not fucking matter right now. Number one. Number two. Let's look at recent history, okay? Carson Wentz's first season, his numbers are worse than what Jalen Hurts put up last year. That's a fact. That's not opinion or feeling. That's a fact. Year 2, what did the Eagles do? They brought in Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith. They gave him a couple of decent weapons. They drafted depth through the offensive line. They drafted depth through the defense. They signed Rodney McLeod. They had a team built around him, which allowed him to excel in year 2. Now, I'm going to put a gigantic asterisk on what I'm about to say. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to say that. I don't know if this is possible or likely. But
you don't?
I don't know. But if I look at the intangibles that Carson Wentz came in with, the things that you can't teach somebody.
Yeah.
And then I look at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is 1,000 times better than Carson Wentz ever was at a young age.
Okay. Before you make point three, I agree wholly with point 1. I actually agree. I agree with you.
That's good. You mentioned that to me before, that you don't believe that right now is the time to go sell the fucking farm and get a quarterback.
Yeah.
Now,
too many
with that being said, I'm not saying this will happen. I'm just saying it could. And with the shape of the team right now, there's no reason to not see this through. It is possible that Jalen Hurts makes a similar year 2 to year 3 leap that Carson Wentz made year 1 to year 2. Now, everybody forgets Jalen Hurts' rookie year was a couple of games. His year 2 is Carson's year 1. If he makes that leap, why are we fucking talking about quarterbacks?
Because this is the only place we disagree. Is I truly believe that he doesn't have the physical attributes arm-wise to make that leap. And
great point. I got to stop you. Every member of the Eagles coaching staff and every person that has been talked about with Jalen Hurts in this offseason has said that there's no doubt his arm is over the line of acceptability. He's not a strong arm quarterback. He's not Malik Willis. He's not going to throw 90-yard fucking bombs.
It's not just that, though.
Need that.
It's not just that, though.
What his problem is, let me ask you this question, right? If Jalen Hurts goes from right now, I believe he's a D- reading the defense. If Jalen Hurts goes from a D- to a B+ in this offseason and can read a defense, do you genuinely believe that his ability to throw the ball is going to hold him back from taking advantage of what's out there? You don't need a guy to throw 100 yards. You need the guy to understand what he's playing against. And then his arm doesn't matter. Drew Brees was an MVP candidate for 15 years. And I don't give a fuck about this. He's retired and we got to talk about him nice now. Drew Brees was never a deep threat quarterback. The motherfucker was the size of Allen Iverson. He was 5'9" and a quarter. Like, he's not a guy that gunned the ball. Russell Wilson, can he do it? Yes, but that's not what makes him elite.
Well, no, Russell Wilson can do it. I mean, Russell. Yeah,
That's
we'll leave.
not what
Let's leave
he
Russ out
does.
of. Let's leave Russ out of the conversation. The problem that I have with this, and again, the only problem is I agree. If you go from a D- to a B to a B plus, as far as reading defenses, and you know for the most part where you're going to go before the snap, and if that's not there, exactly where you're going to go. Secondly, I would agree that you're going to see a big improvement, and he's not going to look as bad. But I also don't think he's going to look good. And the only reason I say that is because every throw that he made this year that was on target, for the most part, had to be perfectly set up. He had to get his feet set. He had to square his shoulders. He takes a long time to throw the ball. He can't.
He started.
There's no arm angles. What's that?
You got to give him time to learn. He started fucking 20 games in his career.
No, but I'm not talking about the reading defenses. That's not what I'm talking about.
I'm talking about the mechanics of it, bro. Look at Josh Allen. Again, I'm not comparing. Please, he's never going to be Josh Allen. But look at what happened with Josh Allen. Josh Allen comes in and has a rocket arm, has a little bit of good mobility, but his mechanics were a problem. Josh Allen works with a mechanics specialist in the offseason, and then next year, Josh Allen went from the 14th to 16th best quarterback to a top 5 quarterback in the league. Jalen Hurts right now is 20 to 25. If he can get from 20 to 25 to 8 to 15, that quarterback can win the Super Bowl if your depth is good enough.
As a thrower of the football, where do you think his ceiling is then? Because I think we have two different ideas.
Like a real life comp, like a person?
Yeah, where do you, as a thrower of the football, because I'm looking at him and I'm like, man, him and he's close with Jimmy Garoppolo. Can he get to? I don't know. Can he get to Derek Carr? Can he get to?
Let me ask you this question. I'm going to answer your question with a question. It's very rare you get a guy that has escapability and a cannon arm, right? They don't exist. It's Josh Allen. They don't exist. It's not a lot of those guys. Justin Herbert can be elusive.
Yeah,
but he's
Patrick
not
Mahomes. Yeah, they're generational.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, though, bro, I watched those playoffs and I watched Patrick Mahomes. He does not have it the same that he did. Patrick Mahomes
looks different. It looks a little different.
Completely changed his game. So let me ask you this question. You could get a guy whose ceiling is, let's use Patrick Mahomes. I think he's probably one of the most natural, well-equipped throwers of the football. He's a great passer. You can get Patrick Mahomes with no athleticism. And in today's world, I don't mean fucking stone foot Tom Brady. I mean, yeah, the guy can get you 3 yards if the pocket collapses, but he's not going to run.
Understand.
Or you can have a guy that has a Derek Carr level arm. I'll use who you used. And elite athleticism to extend plays and make broken plays into positive yards. Who do you pick?
That guy.
You pick that guy, right?
Yeah.
So again, this is what I wrote down, other than stop talking about quarterback in fucking gigantic letters. There's 2 things that you can do in the draft this year, as far as I'm concerned, if you're the Eagles. Because let's be real, between you and I, with no recency bias and understanding who the fuck this team is, they're not making 3 first-round picks. They're not doing it. It's not going to happen. I know they've got them. They're not going to use the 3 of them. It's not possible.
I agree.
So there's 2 opportunities here, right? You use 2 of the picks on defense, and you trade away one of those picks to be a first-rounder next year to hedge yourself against Jalen Hurts not making enough moves.
Right.
The quarterback class next year is significantly better than this quarterback class. Or you do what I want them to do, which is you're going to draft a safety and an edge rusher with 2 of your first-round draft picks, and I don't give a fuck if it's too much money. You're going to give that 3rd first-round pickup to go get Calvin Ridley on a cheap deal and sign another veteran wide receiver and put a room of weapons around your young quarterback to actually give him the chance to find out if he can become that guy. He could work with all the gurus in the offseason, bro. Jalen Hurts could spend every waking hour
He still needs more help. Yeah, around.
If he has Quez Watkins and Jalen Reagor as his 2nd and 3rd option, how many passes last year did we watch? You and I used to talk all the time. Hit Jalen Reagor in the chest and can't catch the fucking ball, bro. He was not great. I'm not taking that away. Jalen Hurts' season wasn't great, but he was made much worse by the shit awful.
His numbers would have been drastically different. And
Exactly.
I would be going more. Any hate would be purely eye test because I wouldn't be able to bring up the stats. They would be that different. I mean, dropped
Right.
six, seven dropped balls in the end zone along with penalties. We're talking about. I mean,
Right.
we're talking about deep balls that hit 3 or 4 guys in the hands throughout the season that would have gone for 50 to 7. I mean, it's a completely
And this
different
is
stat
why,
line.
and I have
Yeah,
to say this too, Quez Watkins is not a starting wide receiver in this league. I
I know
love
that.
his speed. I think his separation's great. He runs really crisp, good routes. He
Let me
doesn't
ask you
have the
something.
fucking hands.
Let me ask you something, and I know what I think about this. We just talked about this too. And Cowboys fans are going crazy. They hate the move. They hate the move because the numbers with Amari Cooper and without him, I don't understand it. I don't know who's calling. I guess it's Jerry Jones for whatever reason. You know, Amari Cooper's 27 years old. You do
Yes.
know that, right?
Yes.
So he's apparently making too much money where they need to shed $7 million and give the extra $7 million to Michael Gallup to be their number one instead of Amari Cooper, who isn't a top 10 wide receiver, but is probably a top 10 route runner in the league.
Hold on. Their number one wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. It's not going to be Michael Gallup.
Well,
It's
yeah,
CeeDee Lamb.
okay, but they're giving the money right now to Michael
Because
Gallup.
Michael Gallup's due right now. And the reason why they're getting away from him is because they need to have the money to sign CeeDee Lamb. What everybody's missing is by the trade deadline or the day of the new league year next year, Zeke is going out the same way because they got to pay CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, of course.
They're paying $45 million to Dak. So you're going to ask me about Amari Cooper. Do I want Amari Cooper? Is that the question?
Yes. Over a guy like Ridley.
Okay. No.
Okay.
If you're giving me an option, no. I take Ridley. Now, again, let's talk about a couple of reasons why. A, do you know how old Alshon Jeffrey was when the Eagles got him?
28.
He was 27 when they signed. He was 28 when they played.
Okay.
They won a Super Bowl.
Ridley and Cooper are both 27 right now.
He had 2 good seasons.
Yeah.
But no, that's a concern of mine. I also remember the amount of people I know who have DeMarco Murray jerseys stuffed in the back of their closet that they're waiting to use for kindling for the fire pit this summer because the Eagles can't sign former Cowboys. Now, if you told me I was getting Amari Cooper for 10 to 12 million instead of the 20 that he's probably going to get, sure, because Amari Cooper's not everything. Even if you sign Mike Williams, some of these other big
he's going to get that somewhere, yeah.
Some of these other big name wide receivers don't fix the problem. You need more than one guy. So if you got like an Amari Cooper and a DJ Shark, where you had 2 guys that could immediately walk into the starting lineup of this team and really help Jalen Hurts be better at every level, okay, I don't care which guy it is, but I would prefer the 6'3" Calvin Ridley over the undersized, slower Amari Cooper, especially after I watched him last season or 2 years ago. I can't remember when it was now. Literally quit in the game against the Eagles. Literally would not go back in the game, sat on the sidelines and quit in the middle of a game. Yeah. Now, it's Dallas. They're fucked up there. I wouldn't want to play there either. I get it. But there's a lot of red flags. If it's not $18 million a year, yes, I'm in on Amari Cooper. If it's market value, I'd much rather Mike Williams. I'd much rather go get Calvin Ridley and pay him a new deal. I'd much rather find a different guy that's not Amari Cooper.
And I would agree, and I would also say that when you compare the 2 wide receivers, like it's very easy to see like what the Cowboys did with and without Amari Cooper, but at the same time they have so many weapons on that team that I'm trying to figure out in my head how that one guy when you have. Yeah, I know Pollard and Zeke aren't like great running backs, but then you have a trio of wide receivers and Dak Prescott, who over the last couple of years has been pretty good. Why Amari Cooper had such a big impact on their wins and losses? Where
do you think that's what this is for them? Amari did what they needed him to do, and now they're like, "Fuck it, we're going to spend the money somewhere else."
I really don't understand it because the win and loss. If the goal is to win football games, your wins and losses and Dak's numbers are so different with and without Amari Cooper. I don't understand why you don't keep him and find a way to trade Michael Gallup because he's due the money or something along those, or drop Zeke and have that dead money until next year. Just
I will tell you, I don't understand why the first thought to them in a money saving move was Amari Cooper and not Ezekiel Elliott.
It's weird.
Like Amari Cooper, his hit is like 18.5 this year. and Zeke is only like 14. I would say only he's a running back and it's 14 or 15 million. But there is a few $1 million difference. But for me, I'm letting Zeke go 100 times out of 100 before I'm letting the leader of my wide receiver room go. Now, again,
this
is
is
a part of the reason why I'm caused pause. What you just said about Amari Cooper, the wins and losses, what he did for Dak, all that other shit. Why are they still deciding that this is the right way to go?
Maybe he doesn't want to be there.
Maybe
he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't want to be there.
I don't mean to sound like the anti-James Harden guys right now, but he also didn't want to be in Oakland, and he forced his way out of Oakland. Now he doesn't want to be in Dallas,
they were
shit. Way out of Dallas.
They've been a shit show for a long time in Oakland. I mean, I think even if I'm losing playoff games in Dallas, I think I'm living a pretty cushy life. Like, I'm in Dallas. I have Jerry Jones as my owner. I have this awesome arena to play in. Like, it's
Oakland was moving to Vegas before he forced his way out, and they knew that.
Yeah,
you'd rather be in Vegas than fucking Dallas, Texas?
Yeah, I'm sure with all that money, they'd much rather be in Vegas.
I know Joe Rogan's made it popular to live in Texas. I get it, but it's not fucking Vegas.
Personally, I'd rather personally be in Dallas. I'm not like a big Vegas guy, but if I'm a football player with all that money and I'm 20-something years old, I probably want to be in Vegas 100 times out of 100. So yeah, I don't understand it. Any more Eagles points? So
Eagles. Is Jason Kelsey going to retire or not?
No, because I think if you're taking this long to make a decision, you know that there's something in you that wants you to play another year and you're hoping it goes away. I think
is there a possibility? I had this conspiracy theory. So let's say that the Eagles pick they're going to trade away or uses the assets 19. They're going to use 15 and 16, and 19 is going to be the trade piece. If you get to 19 and Linderbaum's on the board, which he could be, who is a plug-and-play center in this offense. He's a zone blocking center. He literally, you drop him into this offense, and you lose nothing over Jason Kelsey.
Yeah.
If Linderbaum is there at 19, is that the conversation happening in the war room of the Eagles? Is Howie Roseman calling Jason Kelsey? Not if you retiring or coming back. I need to know right now to make this pick.
Well, you would expect them to know before the draft. They're not going to go into the draft not knowing if they have Jason Kelsey or not. But I think, over the years, there's always like one or two plug-and-play centers every year. One gets taken in the first round, one gets taken in the second round, and then there's some guy that develops in the third round. So I don't know if it's a need immediately. If you have Kelsey coming back, I know they want to keep Dickerson at this point. They're planning on probably keeping him at left guard, maybe moving Isaac somewhere else, and then Brandon Brooks just retired, so you got to figure that out. So at some point,
be your right guard.
Yeah, at some point in the first or second round, you got to draft an offensive lineman. But I think if Kelsey's coming back, if you want an offensive lineman and there's someone there, you take him at the right guard position or something along those lines, and you save the center position for next year. There's too many defensive needs, and if you want to address right guard immediately, I understand. But even like when Herbig has consistently enough time to play, or Driscoll has consistently enough time to mesh with the same offensive line over and over, they do a good enough job where you're not going to need to address the center position until next year.
Sure, and you've got an all-pro left tackle, an all-pro center, and Jason Kelsey. I believe that Landon Dickerson will be an all-pro guard
next year.
And Lane Johnson still. So I think you have enough where if you suffer at center for a year or two, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I'd almost rather address the right tackle position because it's harder to learn in the NFL, and you have to give someone a year because Lane Johnson's been injured so much than go the center direction.
When you're not allowed to take steroids anymore, your body breaks down a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not talking shit. I'm just saying what's the truth. 2 questions. Do you trade up for Kyle Hamilton?
I haven't looked into the draft enough. I can't have a draft conversation.
I'm going to give you a brief overview of what everybody has agreed upon that are the draft experts. He is the premier safety to come out of the draft in the last 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, if
it costs you 19, a 2, and a 1 next year to get the guy that anchors the secondary.
19, a 2, and a 1? No.
Yeah.
I don't think I do that. No.
Well, you understand. Do you know where he's mocked? Have you looked at the mocks? He's mocked anywhere between 3 and 6. 3 and 6.
So he's a great safety, right?
You Notre Dame from 19 to 3 to 6.
Yeah, I mean that's Howie has shown that if he has a guy that he wants to move up and get, or if his guy's not there, he will move back. He's done both of those things, so I'm confident. Like if he's locked in on someone and he wants Hamilton that bad, that he'll go and get him. Me personally, I don't want to give up basically 2 extra picks the following year when I'm still building a team based off potential of a draft, because I'm not saying anybody's going to be a bust, but there's always a possibility that something doesn't pan out. So I don't
fucking Achilles in practice.
Yeah, when you're still building, if we had our team set and we're ready to win a Super Bowl and we need to plug in a safety like right away from day one, and that's the guy and you want to go get him, then fine. But with all the needs that we have and the needs we're still going to have next year to address with the offensive line and a couple pieces on defense, you can't give away two picks next year to trade up this year.
Second question. Is it possible, and if it happens, are you willing to come with me and the thousands of others to burn down the NovaCare complex if they draft another wide receiver in the first round?
I'll be there. I'll drive up. It's still April for me, so I'm not in season. I have time. I can make the drive up. I'll bring some buddies with me. If
they can't draft a wide receiver in the first
round, if they don't go out and sign a wide receiver that they know can play in the NFL, you can't draft one. I mean, you
can't draft another wide receiver. I don't care if every wide receiver falls to you at 15 and all of them are available.
Yeah,
you can't draft a wide receiver
because they're not going to take the right. Take one in the third round that you think should have been drafted early second and call it a day, but don't touch them in the first 2 rounds.
Try to hit on a John Hightower again. Do not spend. You need a linebacker, an edge rusher, a safety, a corner, an offensive lineman, and who knows what's going on with Miles Sanders? Maybe a running back.
So speaking of that,
would you draft a wide receiver?
Yeah, so speaking of that too, and if there's actually a conversation that the Eagles might draft a wide receiver, are people having that?
Dude, it's been that's what everybody's been talking about. This kid that ran a 4.26 or some shit, Olave.
I saw that. Yeah, Ohio State. Yeah,
my God.
I'm out. I don't care. I don't care if he runs a 4.1. I'm out.
The kid London has been tied to us a bunch. A lot of people are talking because they have 3 1s, a wide receiver being one of the picks for the Eagles.
All right, so my forget about that. I don't want to talk about first round wide receivers. So there was the last conversation I heard on the radio before this. We'll end on this because I got a couple things we got to do. We're almost at an hour here. So Frank Gannon's obviously going to be our defensive coordinator again, to the disappointment of a lot of Eagles fans. It's been mentioned and talked about on radio. A small portion of defenders just saying that is actually not his defense. And the reason he wasn't able to run what he normally runs and wants to run and be aggressive is because his defense is actually based around having really, really good linebackers, and he didn't have it. So he had to place and I don't buy into this because I think you should be able to make some type of adjustment to be a little better than you were. I know statistically they ended up about middle of the pack, but the eye test tells you this was like the most atrocious defense in the league and was just a terrible thing to watch.
We missed Jim Schwartz, which I never thought any of us would say.
So do you really believe that the defense was just so bad last year and he just didn't have his pieces where, if he actually gets a linebacker that he loves and a safety that pans out this year and they end up signing another linebacker that can play football, that this defense and this scheme is going to be a lot better being ran by Gannon?
I believe Jonathan Gannon is one of the worst defensive coordinators I've ever seen. It's all good. Yeah. I believe based on what I saw last year, he's one of the worst defensive coordinators I've ever seen. I started last year going, who the fuck are these people? Sirianni's not going to work. Gannon's bullshit. That's where I started the year. I ended the year with Sirianni earned to show me what he can do in a year 2. Mm-hmm. And I didn't move an inch on Jonathan Gannon. I think
I went south on Gannon. I was willing to give him a chance.
So I listen to guys. You know I'm in the car all the fucking time. Less now because my job's different, which is great. But I'm in the car all the time, and I listen to Brandon Graham's show that he does on WIP. I listen to all these guys talk, and what I got from the players this year was what we all were concerned Sirianni was with that fucking plant the seed and grow the flower fucking press conference of you can't be talking to grown men this way. There's no way that they're responding to you, which they did eventually.
They did. Yeah.
I've been seeing even in the offseason this year, Gannon does not have that defensive locker room.
Yeah.
And when you've got your leader is a disgustingly overpaid Fletcher Cox. Brandon Graham, who was out all season last year with an injury, so he couldn't be that guy. and a bad coordinator, I'm so sad that Jonathan Gannon didn't get one of these jobs. I mean, I feel for Brian Flores. I wish he got something better than the linebacker's job.
I would have loved to have
well
him as our defensive coordinator.
But I wish that Jonathan Gannon got a head coaching job, and I would have taken Nick Sirianni's nephew as the fucking defensive coordinator over Jonathan Gannon. I don't want to say that that's not true, that storyline's not true. I've heard the same, that he is very much a linebacker-based defense.
Yeah.
But I also refuse to believe that all of a sudden Jeff Lurie and Howard Roseman are going to value that position. They're going to take one at 15 or 16, the best guy in the draft, or go spend big money on a guy. I mean, again, the best linebacker we've had since Jeremiah Trotter is Nigel Bradham. And the only reason you signed him is because he was fucking hurt for 2 years and was cheap. And he came in and performed. And the moment that he was due money, where did he go? Somewhere fucking else. That's what they do. So I don't want to say that's not the case, but bro, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I don't buy it either, because I just think there's little things you can do here and there that just make the defense look better than they did. Not dropping back and prevent, not giving up 8 yards.
Be a little aggressive. Do something.
So there's one of two things that's going to happen this year. We're going to take a huge step forward, and we're going to look like a team like, I don't know, the Arizona Cardinals. Or we're going to take a massive step backwards. Everything's going to get fucked up, and we're going to look like the Carolina Panthers. I don't think we stay where we're at, but I think this is like the make or break. Where we go?
This is either post or pre the process for the Sixers. Whatever's about to happen. Yeah, I don't know which one it is.
I'm glad we're on the final chapter of the process. That's all we got today. We're about an hour in. Covered a lot. Love this show today. This was a good one. We'll talk about when we'll be back. I know a couple of people tuned in here and there, probably like, I don't know, solid like 8 guys today. So We'll update everybody, let them know when we're coming back. Big Facts is on all streaming platforms. We'll get this up on Spotify and anything, Odyssey, whatever that you guys stream on. And we'll have hopefully some video clips, and you guys will be able to watch this live on the Big Facts page. I'm Aaron Barrison. That's Justin Everett. Any closing thoughts?
Go Sixers, bro.
Let's
Sixers.
Go.
I can't wait for Harden to get back on the court. This is a championship team in basketball in Philadelphia for the first time since I was 10 years old. I'm excited.
All right, buddy. I love it. I'll talk to you soon, and we'll see the viewers later.
Sounds good, man.